No, get down, get down.
He tried to bite you?
Mm-hmm. Haha, got my chair back.
After you don't need it now.
Yeah, well, that's okay. We'll see.
Okay. So some of these are going to be like more specific to like the band, and you may or may not know the answer to them, and if you don't know the answer, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, what's your birthday? I want to know that one first.
March 2nd, 1949.
Okay. Can you explain our family's chain migration? When did we first come to the United States from Mexico, and then where did we go, and everything after that?
Well, as far as I know, my dad was born in Mexico. And his father was from Spain, which is my grandfather. And he came over during the Spanish-American War because he didn't want to fight. So he left.
So what, your mom?
My mom was born in Texas, in Ensenada, Texas, in 1927.
And then do you know why they came up to Michigan?
My dad came up here looking for work, like most of them did, and he finally got a job at the plant. And once he got hired in there, he stayed. His original plan was to make enough money here, go back to Texas, and buy a bar. Mm-hmm. But it didn't work out, so he ended up staying.
Did he come with like just your mom, or
no? He came up by himself, and then he went back and got my mom. Mm-hmm. You know, because he worked in Lansing, he worked in Saginaw, but he got a steady job in Saginaw, because he came up to work the fields at first, but that wasn't what he wanted to do. You know. But yeah, and anyway, when he got enough money, he went back and got my mom, and they got married in Toledo, Ohio.
just on the drive up?
No, I think they were already together. They already had a kid, Eddie. Okay, but they legally got married then. Okay, that was 1947. Eddie was born in 1945, which in this day and age it doesn't matter. Now everybody just live together and then get married, whatever.
Where did your mom work once she was here?
My mom really didn't work. The only place she really worked is when my aunt had a restaurant. I mean, I take that back. Not a restaurant, a grocery store, Casa Chapa. And my mom would work there part-time. But back in the 60s, my dad owned a restaurant, and my mom would work there in the mornings until my dad got off work, and then she'd go home. And my dad and I would work the restaurant.
What was the restaurant?
Where was it? What was the name of it?
Both.
It was over on the corner of 6th and Norman. And the name of the restaurant was a San Antonio Cafe.
Do you know when he opened that?
Yeah, in 1960, in March. On my birthday is when he opened the place.
Your birthday present.
Yeah, I got a job for you. Okay.
Did you guys live close to the restaurant?
Yeah, not real close. We lived over on 8th and Carroll, and the restaurant was on 6th and Norman. So it was a good 5-6 block walk, But it was weird because at the time I was going to school half day because they didn't have enough money to have whatever it was. Anyway, And I would go to school from 8 to 12, and then at 12 o'clock I would go home and change, and then walk to the restaurant and work there until it closed at 10 o'clock. And I did that for approximately a year.
Do you remember how old you were when you did that?
Yeah, I was 11.
11? Was it just like a Mexican restaurant? Or did
Yeah, it was, just mostly like sold tacos and burgers and shakes and stuff like that, you know.
So Mexican food, but then also American food?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. But mostly folks came in to get a taco dinner or enchiladas and you know, that kind of stuff, you know.
Was it your family doing a lot of the cooking and running the place?
Yeah, in the mornings it was my aunt, my Tia Jane, and my mom that would do all the cooking and stuff. In the afternoons when I was there, I just more or less watched the counter, and my dad did all the cooking, you know. But I used to make shakes and that type of stuff. Shakes, malts, you know.
And then, who was all alive by that time? Like, did everybody work all your siblings work there?
No, the only ones that worked there was me. I worked after school, and my brother Eddie would work weekends because the restaurant was open till 2 o'clock in the morning. So you catch all the party animals, all the drunks come in. But that's when Eddie worked, and he would work the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Did you guys have a car? Did Eddie have a car?
At the time, no, because I think Eddie would have been what? He was 15, 16 years old, but no, I don't think there was a car then. Thank you. So we'd have to walk over there.
Yeah. But your parents had a car?
Oh, yeah.
And your mom just, like, stayed at home?
That was mostly what she did, yeah.
So they came from Toledo.
Well, that's where they got married.
Right.
Yeah.
And then came up, bought a house, or?
My dad rented a house. See, he had a house over on Jefferson Street, just listen to this story, a block from the Potter Street Railroad Station, okay? And that's where I was born. And maybe that was my fascination with trains, because all the time my mom was pregnant, the train a block away.
Yeah.
So that's probably it. And shortly after I was born, in '49, probably when I was a couple months old, then my dad bought that house over on 8th and Carroll, and that's where I lived all my life. I mean, as far as it being a child until I got married, you know.
And at that time, he had been working in the plant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you guys had that house for how long?
Well, from 1949 until 2005 or 6 when we.
Oh yeah. That's the greenhouse.
It was gray.
Okay,
It was
there
gray.
we go.
Yeah. Yeah, but he had bought it back in 1949. So.
Did they speak Spanish at home?
Yes.
They speak it in the store?
To the customers that understood Spanish, yes, you know. Yeah.
So you said you were 11 when you would go to work and then go home and...
Well,
you would go to school and then go to work.
Right.
Where were you going to school before because you went to Saginaw High, right?
I went to Houghton School for elementary. One through K through 6, whatever. And then Central Junior High, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then
Bay City Central?
No. Central in Saginaw. That was the junior high. And then Saginaw High the last 3 years.
Do you remember like the demographic of the schools that you went to? Like, was it predominantly white or was it like?
When I was going there, it was about 50-50. But it was going the other way. It was getting darker, I guess.
Would you say you guys like lived comfortably because you had the restaurant, like financially?
You know, whether we had a restaurant or not, we didn't know. We couldn't tell. Nothing changed. With my dad or my parents, I should say, if there was money, you didn't know it. And we were never poor. We were never broke. We were never hungry. You know, just. And I think in this day and age, everybody knows what's going on, and that's kind of sad. You know, because first of all, a kid shouldn't have to worry about that stuff. You know.
You said your dad moved down his parents too, or moved up from Texas?
When he came up by himself, and,
Right.
and then his brothers came afterwards on their own because there was work here, you know, at the plant. My grandparents would come up and down as they pleased. Okay, they had kids up here to visit, so they always had a place to stay.
But they never moved like just to come up and live with them, like they just
No,
came to visit?
when my grandma finally moved up here, it's because my grandpa died. So she was staying either with us or her other two daughters, my aunts. You know, so they would take her in for a couple of months and pass to the next kid and the next kid, and so she basically stayed up here because she never worked. You know, but she always had a place to stay because she had kids up here. So you know.
When they moved from Mexico to Texas,
Yeah.
do you know what they were doing, like as far as work?
My dad, I think he worked in the fields in Texas, but I don't know if my dad. I know he said he worked at a bar as a bouncer and a cook and stuff. You know, when he was younger. And he actually worked for my aunt the most because I had an aunt that owned a store, and my dad worked there as a youngster, and when he wasn't working, that's where he was working. Okay, like a little part-time job. So my dad always wanted to go into business. But she basically raised him because my dad, I think he left home early because he didn't want to work the fields. He didn't like that kind of work. He wanted to make easy money, or at least money without getting dirty, without breaking your back. You know?
What happened to the store after? Like, when did it close? And
Well, we only had it for about a year because the biggest problem was my mom couldn't keep track of her kids because in the summer she would go to work and we're gone. We'd left the house. We were scattered. We went all over places we shouldn't have been. Okay, so it was a choice of either being home to take care of us or letting us run wild in the street. Because that's basically what we did. We'd get up in the morning. I wasn't working there in the morning, so we would take off. We go to the park and goof off. It was like we just came and went, 9, 10, 11-year-old kids doing whatever they wanted to do because there wasn't a mother there, and my dad was working. So when it got to that kind of a choice, my dad said, "No, we'll just sell the restaurant." And you know, so.
what did they do for work after that then, if there was no restaurant?
Well, my dad worked at the foundry.
Oh, yeah.
So that was just extra, you know.
And then he worked there for the rest of his life?
And the foundry? Oh yeah, yeah. He retired out of there. He put in 37 years in there.
How was music incorporated to your home? Do you have any memories of songs that you can recall listening to with your family?
My dad always sang and played guitar. In fact, he would tell us there was on the weekends when he wasn't working. Back then, it was very common for somebody to pay you to go serenade somebody at a window, and that's what he did, and he get paid. Well, that's what a life better than working in the fields and stuff. So he did a lot of that, you know.
Would he like put an ad in the paper for it?
I don't think back then you didn't have to. They knew who you were.
Okay.
So yeah, Emilio can sing. Have him go sing to your girlfriend to make up things for because you guys are having a bad time, you know. And him here, Emilio, here's $5 to go sing a song for Daisy or whatever. Oh, okay. And yeah, then that's what he liked. Like I said, he's always played a guitar and sang. So music was definitely there.
Was it people only from your neighborhood that knew that your dad
Well,
could sing?
this was down in Texas when he was doing this. So it was they all knew each other. And I mean, if you needed a butcher, you knew who to call. You needed a singer, we'll call this guy. And it was the people all stuck together. I mean, you know, so and so can fix cars, so just take your car to him. But it was like a barter thing. You fix my car and in payment for this, you can go sing to my girlfriend, and that's what he okay. And that's the way it was, you know.
Okay.
So it worked.
Do you think that was the same in Michigan?
Here, no. I know my dad played at a couple of bars because, like on the weekends, they wanted somebody to entertain, but that didn't go so good with my mom because he was at the bar. And I don't ever remember seeing my dad coming home drunk, but I know he had a couple beers because that's what they all did. So that wasn't cool either because on the weekends at night he'd go out to the bar because he was getting paid to sing. And my mom didn't like that, being stuck home on Friday and Saturday nights, you know. So that didn't last either, you know. But my dad, I do remember every Friday he would get his guitar in the kitchen and play. He always played and sang from about 7 till about 9 every Friday. And I listened to my dad sing and play, and that was just very, very common, you know. So.
Did his siblings play music and stuff too?
As far as I know, I don't think any of them did. No.
Or like his parents?
That might be, but I never. Well, my grandma would sing, but she didn't sound anything like my dad. Okay, she was loud, but you know, but. No, I think it was just my dad because I never heard of anybody else, you know, singing or playing and stuff. And my mom sang a little bit too, you know.
So then, your dad sang, but then where do you and your siblings go into play? Did he teach you how to play guitar, how to sing or anything?
No, I remember them telling me when I was 3 or 4 years old, I would get up in the summer, I guess. I get up early in the morning and I go outside and sit there on the steps and sing. So I was always singing. You know, a lot of times they go out there, I was younger, and said they would go out there and I'm sitting there in the puddle where I, you know, went bathroom, you know, but I'm still sitting there singing away.
What about Uncle Eddie?
Uncle Eddie, he had friends that played in bands. So one of my cousins taught him how to play drums a little bit. So he had got into a band. He was probably 13, 14 years old, and he started playing for a Spanish band, playing drums. And in school he had trumpet. He'd taken trumpet, but he didn't like it. But he liked playing drums. So that's what he did. I mean, he was good at it.
How did the band members meet? When did you meet them? And what's your earliest memories of the band?
Now, as far as question mark's band, I knew Rudy Martinez, which is question mark, because he was married. I mean, he was Mary Lou's brother, Eddie's wife. So, you know, what had happened, that band was just getting started, and 2 of the members of the band went off to the service. The drummer, Robert Martinez, and the bass player, his last name is Borges. I can't think of his first name to save my life right now. But anyway, they were looking for a bass player and a drummer. And as it turned out, Rudy, my brother Eddie's brother-in-law, asked him if he wanted to play drums. He goes, "Yeah, I can play." He said, "But I need a bass player too." He said, "Who do you have in mind for playing bass?" And Eddie said, I know a guy named Frank Lugo that plays bass." So that's when they both got in the band.
Do you remember what year it was that they, the two were both discharged to war? Or when they both, like, went to
Well,
war?
probably in 65 or 65 they had gone in. And that was shortly, that's when Eddie and Frank got into the band.
Mm-hmm. So it was kind of just by, like, word of mouth that they found out. They didn't really know each other, grow up together or anything?
Well, Eddie probably knew Frank because he had seen him at dances. And it's funny, people in bands, they seem to know each other, as far as, well, like I say, everybody knew Eddie, but from him playing, And Frank was the same way because people see him like playing at a bar or something. Oh yeah, Frank plays bass, and but bands they change off a lot. Sometimes guys can't get along or they just don't fit into that type of music he wants to play. But if somebody says, "Hey, I'm looking for a bass player," well, so and so just left so and so band, so and that's basically how it happened. Like I said, Eddie just happened to know Frank because whatever bands Frank was playing in, But even yourself, you probably see or hear people, that person can sing, man. I want that person to sing at my wedding or my funeral or whatever, because that's what happens,
Was Uncle Frank in a band too? Before?
I think he was, yeah. I think he was playing out in Reese, playing country and western with some friends out in Reese, and they would play on the weekends. And of course, at the time, they were all minors. Probably shouldn't have been in the bar, but that's the way that happens. It still happens now,
What were some of the most popular bars?
Frank was playing out in Reese. I don't know what they have in Reese. I don't go to bars out there. I couldn't tell you for sure. I don't know who you could even talk to on that one. Probably one of your aunts, maybe your Aunt Dee or Cora, your Aunt Cora.
Was it like popular to go out and like go to dances on Fridays
Yes,
and stuff?
well, Fridays and Saturdays, yes. For Mexicans, it was very common. They had a lot of dances even on Sunday nights. But yeah, that was your entertainment, is go to the dance. Yes, it was. That's what everybody did.
And then the music would have been people live
Yeah,
performing stuff.
yeah, and it was mostly people you knew and people from Texas. Had that Texas sound.
Were a lot of the other Mexicans that you knew like not originally from Michigan? Were a lot of them from Texas?
Yes, I think all of the parents, let's say, of my generation were from down there. Some of the kids were from down there, but most of us we were here because of our parents. But our parents were all from down there. Like from the mid 40s up, most of those people are from here. But anybody born before that was from Texas. Okay, that was very common. It's very common for the oldest brother or oldest sister to be from Texas, but the rest of the kids are from Saginaw or Bay City. That's just because Eddie was born in Texas. The rest of us were all born here.
Did a lot of people have big families too?
I think they all did.
Yeah.
Everybody had four or five kids easy. Everybody.
Did you live around a lot of other Mexicans, or were they kind of spread out?
They were spread out. There wasn't many. Where we were at, it was it's probably like 50-50 when I was growing up. There was a Mexican family here and there, but not. There was more blacks in that area or whites, but not as many Mexicans. No.
Was there ever one concentrated area, or has it always kind of been spread out?
I think in Saginaw it's probably pretty spread out. I don't remember one Mexican family living next to another one. There might have been a Mexican family, a black family, and a Mexican family, but it wasn't like,
Right.
yeah, you know.
What were some of the bands that you were listening to when you were like growing up or like around the 1960s?
On the 60s, probably, whatever, but I don't know if there was much in bands. It was more like groups, I guess, or individuals like Elvis. He sang by himself. He didn't have a band. And it's just the way it was at that time, you know, like Frankie Avalon or Fabian or, you know, just guys like that. Bands didn't really start showing up like bands until in the early or mid 60s, like the Beatles and stuff. That was mostly like an individual thing, you know.
Did you have easy access to like listening to music? Or was a lot of it just you had to make your own, so that's why?
No, there was radio was popular, and yeah, you could always hear music, and you could hear what you wanted to hear, and a lot of the kids back then, if there's something you liked, you would save your lunch money to go buy that record or whatever it was, you know.
You guys had a record player at home?
Oh yes, always. There was always music in the house. Always. My mom always had music there playing.
Were record players expensive?
Well, for that time, I think so. Yeah. I mean, you bought one, you took care of it. I mean, you guarded things like if it was a diamond ring or something. It just because that was your only form of entertainment, you know.
And you would hear new music through the radio?
Yes. Yeah. Now, anything like your parents played was something that was already happened. It was already old, whatever. But you know, you have a record, had it 5 years, still play it.
Right.
You know, so. Yeah, but for us, every song that came out, you heard it on the radio. That's not like now you go on your whatever and whatever, however they do it now. But then if a disc jockey wanted to push a record, you would hear it once or twice an hour, okay? And that's the way it was. But
what kind of music did Uncle Eddie like, do you remember?
he loved his Mexican music. That was in his heart. He played the popular music because there was more money in it. That was the only reason. But his heart was in the Mexican music.
And he heard the Mexican music because your family had like old
Basically,
records
yes,
and stuff?
yeah,
Played it?
and that's what you did because, you know, like my parents, when they heard music or played music, they didn't hear anything we were playing. They played what they heard, you know, and it was always Mexican music.
Do you know what genre of Mexican music?
I guess they call it Tejano, you know, Mex-Tex or whatever they call it now. But yeah, my mom liked the old Spanish. What do you call them? Anyway, where the music is played with trumpets and strings and that type of
big
music.
band.
Yeah. But it was excellent music, you know, excellent singers.
Do you know if he preferred like fast or slow, or he just loved everything?
Who, Eddie? I think his favorite, as far as say the white music goes, was jazz. That's what he really liked. And the other stuff he played because, well, like I said, he was making his money off the music of the time. But his love was Mexican music and jazz, but probably Mexican more than anything else. But
how did the band get their instruments? Because I know you said Uncle Eddie played trumpet at school.
Yeah, my mom bought Eddie some drums, and the guys in the other bands, I guess their parents bought their instruments for them. They were all kids.
Yeah, how old was Uncle Eddie when your mom bought him the drums?
Well, his first set of drums, I think he was 14 when she bought him a set of drums, and then she got him this other set when he got into the band. But he was making money with those drums, so my mom got her money back, And the rest of the kids, I think, because at the time when my brother Eddie was in the band, when the band hit big, Eddie was like 19 years old. There was one guy in the band that was 15 years old, the organ player. So they were all minors.
I have more questions about that later too.
Yeah.
Do you recall any interactions with visual arts, like paintings and stuff that would like be at the Detroit Institute of Arts? And who are some of the artists that you remember from the 60s when you were growing up?
The only artist I remember, I can't even think of his name. Diego.
Rivera?
Yeah, yeah. And I really didn't know they had anything like that in Detroit. I had been to Chicago as a kid because my aunt would take us there, but I didn't know Detroit had anything. I know they had a zoo, but my parents we had never gone to the Detroit Institute of Art or whatever, whatever all that was.
You guys went to Chicago like for a weekend?
We went all the time. We went all the time.
But
Yeah.
like when you would go for the whole weekend.
Yes, we did that a lot.
What did you do when you were in Chicago?
Go to all the museums. Go to Lincoln Park, Brookfield Zoo. We were to the ball games at Comiskey Park there. Yeah.
Did you see any music when you were there?
Just usually whatever they were doing at the parks, because they had people back then used to play at Lincoln Park or Buckingham Fountain around that area there.
And out of like the museums you saw in Chicago too, were there any artists that you remember?
No, I don't think I was too much into art. At least I wasn't. I like it now. I'm really into it now. But back then, just a kid, mostly I like looking at dinosaurs or trains or cars, stuff like that. But not much into the arts.
Who are some artists you remember like past being a teenager, but before like 2000?
Oh, like Van Gogh, Picasso.
Did you guys receive a lot of information about the Chicano movement while you were growing up in Saginaw?
Well, actually, I didn't. That movement got a lot heavier when my brother Rudy got into high school.
What year was that?
When Rudy finished high school, I think he finished in 1970. It was after 1968 that really there were so many demonstrations back then and all this kind of stuff, and that's when the movement started. I was out of school by the time it really clicked. Okay, because back then, before that, you were kind of kept in check, But after Martin Luther King died, it all just came out. It just it was there. Yeah.
And you noticed that like living in Saginaw too? Like
Yeah.
were there any similar things going on?
Yeah, they would have these protests like don't buy grapes and stuff like that. Cesar Chavez had a lot to do with that. But I mean that's when the movement started. I was out of school at that time, and I was already married. So my main job and most important job was to keep my job to take care of my wife and kids. And I wasn't going on no peace marches and that kind of stuff. It just didn't happen.
When people would do that, would they like lose their jobs? Like, would their employer find out about
As
it?
far as I know, I don't think anybody did, but it wasn't something that, did all the time because, again, we were just getting into that big change, and you could get fired for that. You're not here like right now. If you don't go to work, you'll get fired. But I'm protesting. I don't care. You got a job to do. But it was just starting to change then.
But before 68 and before Martin Luther King, it didn't really impact Saginaw that much?
I don't think so, no. I think the movement had started but it hadn't got where it's at.
What about people's thoughts on the Vietnam War and drafting?
That was really bad in the 60s. Before I graduated, like in 66, 67, it was getting really bad. People were protesting everywhere. People didn't want to get drafted. People didn't want to go. They burned their cards. They went to Canada or whatever. Yeah, that movement was really big then. That part of it. But like I said, that was the grassroots of all that. That's when all that stuff started. The protests with wars with equality as far as being black or white or brown, and that's just But that was basically the start of it. And I was, like I said, I was out of school by then, and my main concern was my wife and kids.
How old were you in 65?
16.
Do you remember what your parents' opinions were on Vietnam in 65? Or like around 65?
To be honest with you, we never talked about that much, but I don't think my parents really wanted war. Because I think they thought the way we all seem to think, there's enough problems here. We don't have to go over there to, And there wasn't like a welfare at that time the way it is now, okay? Yeah. And if you were on welfare and if you got food stamps, with those food stamps you were not allowed to buy ice cream or cake or potato chips. You had to buy food. When I was growing up, you went to a place where they would give you a block of cheese. They would give you cans of canned meat. And that was your food. It wasn't, wow. And now you got that bridge card. You can buy what you want. Back then, you could only buy food, real food. So.
Were you guys ever on?
No, never. Nope. We probably could have been now. I mean, as far as the way things are now, but no, my dad, no.
Did you ever hear about any artists in California while you were around the Chicano movement and stuff?
I'm sure that there was a lot of them, but it seemed like that time span in my life, I was lost. I don't know. No, I know there was some, but right now I can't think of any. But I know there was.
But you still had somehow heard about them?
Yes. Oh yeah, without question.
Did you guys hear about East LA a lot?
Yeah. It was almost funny to us because there wasn't enough of us to be that way, to dress that way, to act that way, because there wasn't that many as far as numbers go. But we all thought it was cool. We thought the lowrider stuff was cool, and the way those guys were dressed,
So you think had there been more of a Mexican presence in Saginaw, you guys could have
Oh yeah,
yeah,
without question. Because you're sitting in school and maybe there's 30 students, maybe 15 of them are white, maybe 5 of them are black, but only a couple of them are Mexicans. As far as numbers go, that's just the way it was.
Do you think beyond school or beyond where you were in diverse areas, did you guys still do that stuff anyway? You were able to listen to whatever music?
Oh yeah, you could. They had at the time they had stations that would play Mexican music, so you always heard it. And there, like I said, there was always a poster or something at the local Mexican stores where there's a dance this week at the Union Civica or at the whatever hall it was, the Armory or whatever. But yeah, we always knew if there was anything Mexican going on, yeah.
Were there at the time of Question Mark Mysterians getting together? Was it common for other kids around that high school age to be starting bands?
Yeah, I think it had a lot to do with the Beatles because the Beatles just left such a big impact on everybody at that time that there was bands around here that were. the Bossman, Bob Seger was always up here, although he was down from the Detroit area. But there was a lot of good bands that started at that time.
Anybody like that you remember going to high school with starting other bands though?
There was a guy named Fred Bingham and a guy named Clarence Burden, and they had a band called Counting in the Colony, and they had I think they had a top 40 hit back in that era.
Really?
Yes.
Could you only like get a top 40 hit though if you had someone like behind you, like a record label or something?
No, I think back then they were getting a lot of songs out of local bands, but like they weren't paying the kids for them. You would go on tour with a top 40 song, but then you like disappear. Mm-hmm. There was a band called the Bossman. The lead singer from that was Dick Wagner, and when he left the band, he went out to Hollywood and he produced Alice Cooper right up until he died. Mm-hmm. So, and this is a guy from this area. So, there was a lot of good bands from here. A lot of them. Mm-hmm. Grand Funk Railroad. They're from Flint. Tommy James and the Shondells from Ann Arbor. Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels from Detroit. Like I said, there was bands everywhere. Mm-hmm. Very, very good bands.
So when people made those bands, did they make them with the thought that I might go big?
Yes,
with this?
That was the whole thing. Yeah.
So it was never like, hey, let's just go.
No, you always thought that you were gonna make it.
Yeah.
Some did, some didn't. Back then they had a thing too that they called the Battle of the Bands. They would go at like to parks and stuff, and they get 4 or 5 bands together and they would play, and then the kids would vote on which band was the best band. Mm-hmm. Well, Question Mark would win those every now and then, but Bob Seger was up here a lot then, and he would win all the time.
Before he like was really big?
Yes. Yeah. But Seger, once he made it, he's there. He stayed there. Mm-hmm.
Where did the influence of surf music come from?
California, from the Beach Boys. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like, how did you guys hear about it and think that it was interesting to play?
Radio. You always heard it. And they always showed the West Coast thing. I mean, come on. Being on the beach, water and stuff, and here it's always cold and, mm-hmm. So that to me, that was always cool. When
I worked at the History Museum, though, there was like, there used to be some Winona Beach thing.
Yeah, I was just looking at some stuff today over at Barnes and Nobles. I love that place. I'm looking for pictures for a history on that, because I try and tell that to my kids, and they look at me like I'm nuts. Mm-hmm. If these people here in Bay City, back then when they closed it, they were trying to get money together to reopen one. Well, what it was going to be like a Cedar Point.
Right.
Here in Bay City, mm-hmm. but the people here didn't want to pay for it, mm-hmm. so they put Cedar Point down there, and it could have been right here, right now, jobs for everybody, mm-hmm. and the beach to me was just the coolest thing in the world.
Did you guys get to go out to that beach?
Oh yes,
yeah,
we always went. Yeah, until it closed in 1964. But in the summertime, we probably went a couple times every month in the summer, maybe like a couple times in June. July, whatever, but it was, mm-hmm. had a roller coaster, it was just fun. It was just fun. I just loved it out there.
Do you guys ever swim in the river?
You could swim in the bay area there, because it was right on the bay. Yeah, there was times when you couldn't, but the times I went, there was never a no swimming sign, mm-hmm. So, yeah, and it was always packed.
So even after Winona Beach closed, you still went out and swam, like kind of where State Park is now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's something you would do like once a month?
Oh, easy. Oh, yeah. Again, they didn't have the rules and restrictions they have now, mm-hmm. And for sure, everybody was dumping into the rivers and lakes then, mm-hmm. There was no regulation. It wasn't until they found out what was going on that they quit dumping and quit letting you swim there whenever you wanted to swim there.
I think kind of like in a way, we kind of have like a beach culture. It was only half the year, but like...
Right, yeah, but here, yeah, because people here, the minute it gets warm, they're up north. They got to be by water or a creek or a lake, and yeah, heck yeah.
Which of the band's songs first gained noticeable recognition? Was it 96 Tears only, or were there other songs too?
For me or for the...
For, like, the... Or, like... So, what ones were, like, popular within, like, the city first, and then, like, ones that went, like, really big?
Well,
is that how it worked?
Yeah, well, the Beatles were always really, really big, and everybody after that tried to copy them because then everybody had four guys in the band, 4 or 5 guys in the band. But Question Mark's hit was good. It was really, really good music. But like I said, all the groups back then, there's 4 or 5 guys in the groups because of the Beatles, you know. And you just listen to everything. You liked everything, you know. And I don't think, and I personally like the Motown sound. I like the Supremes and the Temptations and the Four Tops. I've always liked black music, but that has a lot to do with my culture where I was raised, and you know, the black kids were always singing and dancing, so that's what I was doing, singing and dancing with them and playing basketball. Let's be real. That's just, you know, I love that, you know. So, you know.
Yeah, I feel like Question Mark's sound isn't necessarily like a black sound.
No, it's not.
Where did he grow up?
4 blocks where I was born at, and it's so yeah, they lived in that area too, and but like I said, it was mostly the music, that type of music because of the Beatles. It does have a little soulful sound to it, but that's because of his environment, you know, which is good because if music is good, it doesn't matter who's playing it.
Right.
Or who's buying it. You know, you either like it or you don't, you know.
How did, so can you kind of describe to me what happened, like even in your house, like when the song started to like get really big?
Oh, when that happened, it was excitement. It's oh, you can't explain it.
Were your parents really proud?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were they like in the newspaper and like interviewed?
Yeah,
and
they
stuff?
were in the paper. So it was like, you went from having nothing to now being somebody, you know. All of a sudden, in school, hey, there's Emilio. His brother plays drums for one of the biggest bands in the country. Now you're somebody. Now somebody's looking at you. That's kind of cool. So, I mean, if that would have happened to you, say in high school, or oh, there's Kaylee. Can I get your autograph, Kaylee? And here you are. You're
just going to class.
Yeah, and this is the way. This is how your life changed. It's just wow. You know, like I said, you come from nothing, you have nothing, and then all of a sudden you're somebody. I mean, my senior year at school, you know, because of the band, I'm driving to school in a brand new car of the year. I got this nice clothes. I got money in my pocket because of who? Of me? No, because of my brother. And it was like, wow, you know, that guy is cool. You know, he's got everything. It wasn't about me. It was about him.
Had Uncle Eddie already graduated by the time they did 96 Years?
He didn't graduate. He quit. He quit school.
To be with the band?
No, he had quit before that. He was married in 1963, and so this big song didn't hit till 66, whatever. But yeah, that was, he had dropped out of school.
And he just worked and played music?
He just played
Oh,
music.
but he got paid to play music.
Yeah, right. But it wasn't like a big gig. It wasn't until the band got the big hit that he started seeing some real money come in then, compared to what you're making here.
Yeah.
Even then, at that time, my dad was probably making up $100 a week at the plant, working 40 hours. And Eddie was making a couple thousand in a couple weeks, which, oh my God, that's crazy money.
But your parents didn't have like house payments and stuff because they'd already had the house. So
I think they probably did. No. But there was enough of us to raise where, like I said, my dad was probably making $100 a week. I mean, that's not crazy money. It's okay money for the time.
But then Uncle Eddie was like helping you guys out too when he did
Well,
make that money?
he would give money to my mom, and like I said, I'm sure he paid my mom for the drums, that she bought, and he probably helped out some, but
And he bought your car?
he bought cars. Well, the only reason I got to use these cars because he was on the road playing, so he wasn't going to take his car. I said, Junior, if you want to take the car to school, take it. So, yeah, why not? But yeah, you look back on anything in life. If you would have just, when you got money, if you just saved it, you'd been better off than, oh, I got a diamond ring, I got a Mercedes, I got a Corvette. You don't need all that crap. But you always learn that later in life. Oh, I should have done this. Because you think it's going to go on forever. It doesn't. It just doesn't. So,
So when they went on the road, what was that like? Like, was it like how you see on TV where the band gets a bus and?
It was fun. It was unbelievably fun. I mean, wherever you go, I mean, gosh, people are giving you free meals or chasing behind you, looking for an autograph. You're like I said, you're somebody. It was a lot of fun.
You went on the road with them.
I went on the road with them.
When did you go?
Where
did you go?
I went during Christmas break in 1966.
So that your parents didn't let you skip school to go on tour with them?
I went during Christmas break in 1966. We went to New York. Did a show in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and in New York City, down in Virginia Beach. During that week, it was one of those years where Christmas hit on a Wednesday, so we had 16 days off.
Okay.
And in those 16 days, I was on the road with Eddie. That was so much fun. I did not want to go back to school. Oh my God! But that was my Christmas of my senior year at school. So I was graduating. Oh, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. And then when I got out of school in June, I went back on the road with the guys for the summertime. Because I wasn't working. I didn't want to work. I just got out of school, And that was a ball too. Went and played at the Detroit State Fair that year in '67. I think it was headlined that year by Sergio Mendes, Brazil '66, and with Diana Ross and the Supremes, and it was cool. It was something to see.
Did you meet them?
Yes.
Dang.
Yeah. That was really cool. It was cool at the time because Diana Ross had come in, and at the time this was cool. Like the three Supremes would walk in, and then 6 girls would walk in behind them with their clothes. That's the way it was. And at the state fair, each band had a trailer where they would get ready to go out and play. Well, Diana Ross was the first person that I knew that had her own trailer, and then the Supremes had a trailer for them, the other 2 girls. So I'm thinking, wow, she's big time, you know. But she was, and it was just, and you meet these people, you talk to them like they're just like everyday people, just real nice people, and then that was cool. I mean, oh my God, you know.
Was the Detroit State Fair kind of like it's like a music festival?
Yes, it was. It's always in August. I think they still have it. It's for two weeks, and I think they still have that, and they book the best bands that they can get at the time.
When you guys were on tour, was it just a lot of music festivals? Weren't there a lot of music festivals in the 60s?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There always was. Most of these, yeah, we played with some of the bigger groups. We didn't headline everywhere, but like we played with what was now called Led Zeppelin. At the time, it was the Yardbirds, and there was a lot of that. Played with the Beach Boys.
Where was the Yardbirds at?
In Long Island, we played at a hockey arena, and the band was late, and the place almost had a riot. It was crazy. It was really nuts. People jumping on stage, and finally they showed up and played and just turned the place out. It was fantastic.
And then you said the Beach Boys too?
Yeah.
Where's that at?
In Virginia Beach.
Did you guys ever get out to California?
The band did. I didn't quite make it. At that time, when the band was headed out west, because we were on tour, we were doing like state parks, and this was back in August. We were at the Iowa State Fair, and Eddie would call my mom at least once a week, and she called my mom and she said, "Tell your brother that he got a call from Steering Gear. They want him to work." So Eddie put me on a bus and sent me back home, and within 2 weeks, I got my job at the plant, and I stayed there.
That was the August after you had just graduated?
That was the same year, because that summer, the summer of '67, the summer of love, whatever all that was, I was in all that mix. It was so cool to be part of all that. I was there. And it was August when I got the call, late August, and I hired in a week after I got home. But the band was on their way out west, and to play on the Dick Clark show, whatever, back then. So I didn't make it that far because, well, I got an offer for a job.
Where were you when Uncle Eddie sent you back home? Where was the bus stop?
We were in Iowa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I got shipped out of there to Chicago. I went direct to Chicago, then from Chicago back up to Saginaw, and then my dad picked me up when I got there, and I went to the plant the next day and got a job. And that was all of that stuff.
And when they were on tour, did they have just a van? Then they just drove around in the van?
They had a van, yeah. That's when we went out east during my Christmas break. Yeah, there was like 6 of us in a van with instruments and clothes and.
Not before AC.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, we went in December, so that was a problem. We had a problem with icy roads in Pennsylvania because they had guardrails this high going up a mountain, and it was really scary, really creepy, but it was a lot of fun. It was like that one La Bamba thing with Richie Valens, where they're in the cold. It was just like that. It was just like it was cold. It was horrible. It was bad. It was bad. But that's the way it was then.
Was that the same setup for the summer too? The same van?
Now the big bands had buses, had them big old buses like the Yardbirds or the whoever. They had buses, But these were the big groups. The other bands, you would travel in 1 or 2 vans. That's just the way it was. It was cheaper. If you were making a lot of money, they would fly you wherever you had to go. But that was, like I said, that was Beatles and Beach Boys and money bands.
What did you guys do when you weren't playing? How long did you get to stay in each location?
Probably a night or two at each spot, and to be honest with you, all anybody ever did was drink or get high. That's just the way it was.
Did you do it with like the other bands that had been?
Yeah, you would meet with other bands and talk, but and it was weird because I seen a lot of jealousy too. Some bands wouldn't talk to other bands,
Really?
Yeah, it was just something. I don't know what it was. It wasn't all of them. Okay.
Was it like bigger bands that didn't want to talk to other
Yeah,
bands?
that's basically what it was. We had one thing too though where I don't know if it was a racial thing between like question mark. I think there was a band called Los Bravos, which is another Mexican band making a book good, and it was like a competition or a jealousy there, which you really didn't see with say two white bands. It just, and I don't. To me, that's always been a thing about Mexicans. They just, instead of being your buddy, they don't like you for they're jealous of you because, well, why is he making it big and I'm not? And I don't get that.
Is that something you were able to observe? Like you saw other white bands and they always got along?
They mostly got along, but I mean, if they didn't, you didn't know it. But with the Mexican bands, you knew it, and it was so obvious that well, these guys don't like each other, you know. But you know,
were you often like going to places where there were other Mexican bands there?
Not very often. No.
And was the beef like with Mexican bands that were from the South? Because there weren't a lot. Were there other Mexican bands that were famous like up here?
As far as I know, I think if any, I'm not sure where these bands were from, but I would say they were from like Ohio or Pennsylvania or wherever they were from. I don't think they were bands from California. I mean, you can look up certain bands and see where they're originally from, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I've been able to find a lot of other like all Mexican bands, like boy bands, like question mark, that were from somewhere up here.
I don't think so. They're from further south. I don't know where, but like I said, it was like a rivalry or whatever it was. And actually, the bands were good. I mean, when they do these things now, they get 25 bands in to play one or two songs with their hits, and they all get along great now, you know. But at the time, it was like, so I don't know if it was a jealousy or a rivalry or what it was. But as far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't have been there. Come on, you guys are all doing the same thing, you know. They're trying to play some music.
Were you ever in the same? Was the band ever in the same place as the Beatles?
When I was with the band, I don't think so. No.
Did they go to Woodstock?
No. No, that would have been cool, but no.
Did you go to Woodstock, like, just to go?
No.
But
Well,
you guys have heard about it and everything?
Yeah. I mean, like at the time, like I said, when I got back from that thing and got my job, once I got my job, Kaylee, actually, when I started working at the plant,